Good evening.
Oh.
And welcome. So, I shouldn't imagine Eric will be too far behind us, but
No, you're good.
before he gets here, I'll just introduce everybody. For anybody that's watching on Catch Up, you've got me, and you've got Annette, you've got Ian, and our guest tonight, Paul Goddard. So, good evening, everybody. To kick it off, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, Paul?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, and people know me mostly now, I think, at least in the paranormal circles, for conducting past life regressions, but I also do other hypnosis regressions with people within the paranormal field. I also see people for what I say classic hypnotherapy, so that's getting people from a stuck state to a desired state. Along with that, I do something called neurolinguistic programming, or NLP for short. So that's your neurological system, the language that you use to yourself and others, and it takes on the human brain as being like a computer program. And if you're not happy with the software that's in it, you can do tools, exercises, and also linguistically, the way you can speak to somebody to help loosen up and change that programming. So that's kind of what I do. And when people come to me for past life regressions, it's recorded. So I did a demonstration last night, similar to what it would be, although I did jump on camera, which I wouldn't if it's for somebody individually. So I put past life regressions out so people can see what it's about. And I find past lives such a fascinating field, and it just wants me to, I just want to learn more and do more, because I think once you get bitten by the bug of the paranormal and the past life regression, you don't want to go back.
Well, exactly. We all do a few different things in the field. My forte is tarot and Reiki. Also private investigations, which I believe you've done as well.
Yes.
Do you follow a particular method?
Of hypnosis, do you mean?
Yeah, or is it your own system?
Well, I was trained by three people in hypnosis. So I learnt through an Opta training, which is for the neurolinguistic program, and that's very much Milton Erickson style hypnosis. So that's very much vague, promiscuous language, sort of like you gently guide somebody to hypnosis and the person wouldn't really know they're going into hypnosis. You do also get permission. That's very important to realize that you do that. Then the Dave Ellman is a lot quicker way of doing it. So I learned Dave Ellman hypnotherapy through Raymond Roberts, one of my teachers. And then also I learned by Maria Wheatley, and Maria Wheatley had training with Dolores Cannon, who was a well-known regression therapist and spiritual teacher. So between everything that I've learned, and I also keep reading books all the time, and I keep looking at other people's YouTube videos, because if you look up hypnosis on YouTube, there's different styles, and it's something that constantly grows and changes. I tend to be quite relaxed and want to give somebody a really nice, pleasant experience going into hypnosis. And I tend to take, when it's live, about 5 minutes before actually getting into the hypnosis. You can do it a bit quicker than that by, you see some of the stage hypnotists that grab somebody's arm and shout sleep and pull them over. But I tend to find it looks very good for stage hypnosis. But when you've got a client coming to you, it tends to be not liked very much, and they prefer it to be more of a gentle approach in. But most of the work that I do is very much solution-focused hypnotherapy. So it doesn't go over the past too much unless I'm doing regression therapy. And the past life is something completely different to that. So I have a load of different styles. And also as well, it's important to realize that each person is an individual, and each person will liken a different style more.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I've got one last question, and I'm going to hand it over to Ian, because I know he's got quite a lot. I can see him, he's there, he's pegged up, he's waiting. So, what's your experience on transfiguration? Do you believe in it, or?
No, I think it's, well, I think that it's important to, I mean, I believe in this stuff, but I think when you're working with someone, it's good to be on the fence and keep an open mind and not just say what this is definitely the answer. But I know a lot of mediums that have transfiguration are very trustworthy people. And also as well, when I did the regression last night, I don't know if anybody else noticed it. I didn't at the time, but then when I do regression therapy, past life regression or hypnotherapy with people, I go into hypnosis as well. And that's something that all hypnotherapists, hypnotists will do. They will go in hypnosis with the client as well. And a few people who were watching last night with Kelly Duggins, who was the subject, said they could see some sort of transfiguration going on. So I don't know. I know that Ian, you were watching. I don't know, Nettie, if you were watching, but I know that some people were saying that they saw that. I've got to go back and take a look and see what I think.
This is why I mention it.
Oh, right, okay.
Have we got anybody on, Nettie?
Yeah, we've got a few on, so I'll put them on.
Okay.
Got Patricia Middleton,
Hello.
says everybody. No.
Hello.
Evening.
We've got Cowabunga, Moose, Spirit, Happy Freaky Friday, Paul, and everybody. Hello. Eric, do you think anyone should have a past life regression?
It's up to the person. When I have somebody that comes to me, I always make sure that they are aware that if they have clinical depression or epilepsy or any other psychological reasons that they might want to seek medical advice first, that they do that. It's my professional opinion that it wouldn't cause anything, but you have to be careful and cover yourself, because if somebody did have a more bad term when they had depression afterwards, if they haven't signed a paper, they could blame you afterwards, and then you're on a sort of a path of saying, you know, that it wasn't your fault, etc. You know, that sort of thing. So you have to be very careful. And with epilepsy, the same thing is actually been researched that it's very good for someone. But then again, if somebody was in the chair under hypnosis and had epileptic seizure whilst they were in hypnosis, then they could blame you. But if somebody had a epileptic seizure while seeing a comedian on stage, then they wouldn't have that same association. But it's just being careful, letting people know. And also I'll just send that out and just say, if you have any of these, do seek medical advice beforehand, because it's always good to get a doctor's opinion. Because I remember there was one of those power shows where they have people really built up, and they kind of like power seminars. And they did firewalking as part of it. It wasn't the Anthony Robbins. I just want to say it was a more obscure one. And they all got to sign a paper beforehand. And they said, look, you know, nothing's going to happen, but it's just we have to do it, you know, if you want to do this, but nothing's going to happen. All but one of them went to hospital with burnt feet at the end of the day. So you have to just be aware and be careful that everybody's an individual. And you don't truly know their story until they come down and sit next to you. But I've had loads and loads of clients, and when they have been to their doctors, no one's ever said don't do it. The only one in the whole entire time says I can't say or not say. That's the only one. But every other doctor said, yeah, you know, I can't see a problem. You know, give it a go. It'll be fine. But if everybody wants one, it's good to do it. I think it can certainly relieve a lot of blocks. I've had people that have been fearful of water, and after being on the experience where they've had a previous life and they've drowned in that lifetime, they've lost their fear of water, because they then realised that could have been something that happened to them in the past, and it was nothing to do with them. And I tend to find it's very good when you have those type of clients, if they've got no reason that they think why they should be fearful of water. Like, you know, I can't understand it. You know, I didn't have a bad experience when I was younger. My siblings didn't tell me about any particular time. So that's a good one to get people to maybe explore a little bit with that. But it's up to the individual. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not my job to say you should or you shouldn't. But I tend to find with a lot of people, there's like a call in that it's something they want to do if it's something they want to do.
Yeah, that's a good question, actually, Eric. Yeah. Very well done and very well answered. I've had similar things with practicing Reiki. If you want to be professional at anything, I think you've got to explore all the angles and make sure that you're not causing any more damage than you're trying to cure.
Absolutely.
So, totally agree with you. Any more, Nettie?
Yeah, we've got a good few. Cowabunga Moose Spirit. Paul is a great hypnotist and therapist. I know this firsthand.
Thank you, Cowabunga.
Here we've got William. Hello, William.
Evening, William.
Andy Linden. Hello, Andy.
Hi, Andy.
Eric. Hi, everyone in the chat. Thanks for watching. Andy, last night was brilliant.
Thank you, Andy.
Noreen. Hi, everybody.
Hello, Noreen.
Mm-hmm.
William Salford. Hi. And then we've got Patricia Middleton.
Mm-hmm.
To be in hypnosis is such a lovely experience.
That's what I find as well, and thank you for saying that, is that you have a lot of people that are very fearful of hypnosis because they've seen programs on television where you're completely under the control of the hypnotist, and programs like the Avengers where somebody would be hypnotized and the code word would come over the telephone, you see, and they put the telephone down and walk off like a zombie and assassinate someone. It doesn't work in that way. You can't get anybody to do anything that they don't want to do. And also, it's very important for everybody realizing that hypnosis is pacing and leading. So you're going in to hypnosis with somebody, you're noticing those signs, giving more suggestions for them to become more sleepy and go deeper into that state, what we call hypnosis. And everybody, even if they've been really fearful, there's been nobody who's finished the session afterwards go, that was a horrible experience. So we said, wow, that was really relaxing, and it loses their fear. And even when you say all these things to people beforehand, I think people are still a little nervous beforehand, but it's that nice state you get into just before waking up or just before falling asleep when you feel a little drowsy. But it's important to realize that it's a natural state, because each one of us will go into hypnosis several times throughout the day anyway. You hear about people going into automatic pilot, and many people have meant to be driving to see their friends on a Saturday afternoon and think, what am I doing? I'm driving to work. In that circumstances, you've gone into a hypnotic state and your subconscious mind is taking over. So that's something that is important to realize, that we will go into these different states throughout the day anyway.
Yeah. It's one of them things, isn't it, that there's good practitioners and there's bad. So unfortunately, when you have a bad experience, it gets bandied about and they tar everybody with the same brush. Have to keep an open mind. Everybody's an individual. Keep an open mind. Give it a go. If it's something you need, try it.
Absolutely.
Over to you, Ian.
All right. Well, you came across my radar, Paul, because I've seen you on a couple of TV shows, and then you were on Help My House is Haunted with my friend Barry.
Yeah.
And, it was nice to watch, but on the TV shows you only get a little snippet. But after watching last night, it really gave me a more in-depth of what you do, and it was very impressive, I must say. And
thank you.
How did you first get into past life regression? How did that come about?
So it got into past life regression because I wanted to be a hypnotherapist. There were several things that happened in my life that brought me to that stage. I just want to do hypnotherapy and NLP, because I think NLP is very good for helping people have strategies, and it goes far more further than that. But I find NLP and hypnotherapy go hand in hand, personally, for me anyway. And I think if you do hypnotherapy, if you don't do NLP, doing something like CBT is very good as well to go with the hypnotherapy. But I learned some hypnosis and hypnotherapy with the NLP. That was more Milton Erickson style. Then I did another training course because I wanted to have a certification and learn more and go deeper into hypnosis. So I took a course with Dr. Raymond Roberts. And just a little part of that was past life regressions. And I was fascinated by it, but I didn't think that it'd be something I would really take up. But I was quite captivated at that moment. But then I did a paranormal investigation, and the organizer of it was kind of thinking of different experiments, what we could do. And I just sort of said to the person who organized it, would it be right if I did a couple of past life regressions? Because I've just recently got my certificate as a hypnotherapist. Can I do some past life regressions? And I suddenly had a room full and had an audience, which was good. So I did 3 past life regressions. And then my good friend Lynn Sindri, she used to put on these psychic fairs and these psychic nights, and said, "Oh, really enjoyed that. Would you come along and do some of these?" So I had a little room, and at that stage, I was doing 30-minute sessions with people. It's not, and it was good, and I really thank Lynn, because that got me known in the field, and so I get it's kind of snowballed from then. But I don't do the quick people coming in, people then going out afterwards, because I now know a lot more. I do a lot of healing work as well with the past life. I mean, I did offer that last night healing work, but I kind of felt that 30 minutes, you really need the care and attention with the individual. And although I do events at Parameet, and I have a little room at the Parameet events where I can see people, I would do 3 in one day, and then give myself a good couple of hours before the next person, just purely because some people might need to have a bit longer to go into hypnosis. Other people might have what's called an abreaction. So that's when they've, a good example of an abreaction, one of the lives I did with Charlene from, was it Haunted? Anyway, Paranormal Hauntings or something like that is his name. I've forgotten it off the top of my head now. But she had an abreaction where she was a Viking. She was a female Viking, and they were in a rough storm, and her son got, in the past life regression, got carried by a wave into the ocean, and you could tell she just suddenly was starting to well up, which is unusual for her because she's not an emotional person. So then you had to kind of make sure that she was okay. I took her back to a time when I knew she was safe, and then put more suggestions in there. It would be like a videotape or watch it on TV. It would be fast forward all around. So I would take some of the emotions away. Because although a little bit of emotions are good to experience, to release, you don't need to have somebody absolutely in floods of tears and losing it. But I make sure I do a lot of healing after. So I really make sure that I take the time to do that healing work. And I've answered that in a very long way, but it was through doing a panel investigation how I first got into it, and it made me more and more fascinated. But I think the seed was first dropped when they had a couple of stories about reincarnation and past life regressions on the wonderful program, which I still love to this day, Strange But True, with Michael Aspel. I think that was probably the seed, and it grew later on after doing the training.
So I guess your belief is that things that happen in a past life can block or affect you in the life you're in now.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because I had a situation where I never had a fear of heights, and then I hit a certain age, and then it suddenly just kicked in. Would you think that's something that's happened to me before? That maybe that age has triggered that.
It could certainly be that. If, say, you were a client to come to that and you say, I want to explore this in a past life, I'd go down that route to begin with. But some clients want to know where the fears come from. And I will just ask them whether it's, this life or during birth or before the previous life, where it comes from, and just allow the subconscious mind to go to the root cause. I mean, it's very important as well when you do any sort of regression work, whether it's past life or current life, that you guide a client and you never lead them, you never ask leading questions. And sometimes somebody will say something a little bit like last night, because I know you were watching him. Yeah. And Kelly sort of said, I'm feeling lonely. Now, part of me was thinking, as a husband passed away, or have they separated? But I would just ask at that point, why is that? Because you don't want to plant any seeds in somebody's mind that could be something false. Because I've got a wonderful book, The Art of Regression Therapy. Roy Hunter is one of the people that writes in it. And he was being regressed one time. And they sort of said, the hypnotherapist that he had at the time, because he wanted to explore a possible near-death experience he had where he saw bright white light. But the hypnotherapist went and said to him, or the hypnotist said, now see that bright white light, go through the light and let me know if you see a UFO, which, because the idea was implanted in, he did see a UFO. So it's very important you just go, now what happens, and move forward in time. So if you watch what I do, I make sure I never say, did this happen? Like sometimes people look like they're going to die, and I don't say, do you die here? Because I don't say that, and several times people have gone on and they have been healed. It's been touch and go, but the doctor on the battlefield or whatever it is has managed to bring them round, and they go on to live to old age. Quite often they do die if they're like really injured on the battlefield, but you've got to be aware it might not always be like that.
Yeah, we've got a question from Andy Linden. Is it possible for a person to bring back past memories after their session?
Well, after a session, I always say whatever you experience, you remember with crystal clear clarity, because there is something in hypnosis where you can have amnesia, which is great for a hypnotherapy session. And in fact, sometimes I put in suggestions that they won't be able to remember the session. Not all the time, but sometimes if I feel there's somebody who's going to analyze what happened to them, and they're going to try and unpick it and basically unpick the work that's purely in the hypnosis meant for the subconscious mind. But yeah, people that have the regression afterwards, they do remember it quite well. Occasionally, very occasionally, even with that suggestion, remember, I think there'll be bits a bit sketchy, like coming out of a dream, where if you don't say it all then, it starts to go. But that's why I make sure every single client that comes to me, whether it's an online session or one in person, that I record it so that they get the recording back, and then they can review the footage afterwards and remember bits.
Brilliant. In layman's terms, what would you say was the biggest differences between hypnotherapy and mediumship?
Well, hypnotherapy, I mean, mediumship, it certainly comes from within. I don't know an awful lot about mediumship, but I know there's a lot of meditation, and hypnosis and meditation are quite sort of similar. But with hypnosis, you're kind of completely letting go. So you're sat or reclined in the chair, and you can let your body, as I put it, go wet spaghetti. So when you're meditating, you're very much upright, and it's the posture. Whereas if somebody's in hypnosis, they tend to, so I'll pull my computer off then, they kind of sort of slumped over a bit more, and they just allow their body to go within. And also as well with meditation, I know you sort of said mediumship, I just thought I'd put it back because I know a lot of meditation is done through in development circles. It's about bringing something that you have already without, whereas hypnotherapy, you can start implanting suggestions quite directly, or more metaphorically, or more indirectly, depending on where you decide to go with the client. But mediumship, you can connect with things on a very much spiritual aspect, loved ones. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a crossover, because I think mediums, I mean, you can answer that as well, but we'll go into a little bit of a trance when they're working anyway, not a complete trance, but they will kind of, their brainwaves will change whilst they go into it. So there's crossover, but hypnosis, for me, you can do self-hypnosis, but you're looking at someone, you're noticing their facial expressions, you're noticing their body posture, and you put more suggestions into that. And as I say, which also alleviates some fear from people, is that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. So you won't be under my control. I'll be helping you guide yourself into that state. And I think if it's done right and properly, I think hypnotherapy is an incredibly ethical thing to do, because it helps take somebody from their self-imposed limits. So they've kind of, in a way, hypnotized themselves over their life and through magazines and television programs. And under hypnosis, they can start to unlock, because in NLP, there's a saying, we already have or can create the resources to do whatever we want. And I think that's a good way of living every day. I don't know if that answers your question, because I went a roundabout way, but so I think it's crossovers.
Yeah, that's what it's about. It was a very good answer, really. It just shows the crossover between different styles and different forms of therapy, basically.
Yes.
Some mediums do cross over. The majority don't. They're more like fortune tellers and one thing and another. But no, that was a great explanation. Have we got any more, Katie?
Yeah, we've got Rita says hi to us all. Hello, Rita. We've got William Salford, everything has a vibration, it moves.
Yeah.
Andrew Garlett says hello, Paul.
Hello.
Catherine Murphy, hello all.
Hello.
Good evening, Catherine.
Eric, the only thing I've been able to ever do is to be able to completely block out pain.
Well done. Excellent. So was that through hypnosis or through some other form? But whatever form it is, if it works for you, go for it. It's like I say to people, you know, if CBT works more than anything else, go for that. If counselling works for you, go for that. If hypnotherapy works for you, go for that. And I think it's not like this is the only answer. I think that people will be drawn to certain forms of healing, and whatever works for you is brilliant. You know, that's why I got into what I do at the end of the day, is to help people, because also I knew I applied the tools and techniques to myself and allowed myself to feel more confident and increase my self-esteem. And I think it's nice that people don't go around with imposter syndrome, and that they're doing all the things that they love to do in life and really sort of working towards their goals.
Yeah, I found through doing Reiki, I mean, I don't do what you do. I've done a little bit of mediumship, but it's mainly been Reiki and massage therapy. I'm qualified, but I find that 90% of that is literally being more like a counsellor. Sometimes they do need the physical side. Yeah, they do need the physical therapy, but it's the trauma that is causing, emotionally and mentally. So to be a good practitioner it's good customer service at the end of the day. If you can be good at that, then you seem to come through a lot better. It's having empathy, not sympathy, because
Absolutely.
you can't afford that. You can't get too emotionally attached.
No.
You know, that reminds me of it's another I've got the audio series, but it's also a book. Dr. Maxwell Maltz, he created Psycho-Cybernetics, which is to do with a helmsman going into a port. It's kind of I think Greek words or something. It's been a little while since I've looked into it actually, but it reminds me because he was a plastic surgeon in the 1960s, and it was very much his work. I would call it eyes open hypnosis. It was before NLP, but I can see lots of crossover with NLP, and he got into helping people with their own self-esteem because he was a plastic surgeon, and he had a lady who had been involved in a car accident, and he was absolutely delighted with the work that he did and the reconstruction of the face, and said, look, you can't even see the scars or anything like that. But she looked at herself in the mirror and said, nothing's changed. And then he realized at that point that she had mental scars on the inside that needed to be healed. So he created the psycho. It's great. I highly recommend people read that book. It's good.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I've looked at crossovers. I like crossovers. Like Reiki compression points are very similar, and they're all in the similar area to acupuncture, which is fascinating. I didn't realize that until I started looking into it. There's so many holistic therapies that should be recognized a lot more, in my opinion, and hypnotherapy is one.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I would like to see at some point in the future would be some sort of personal development put into a school curriculum. Because I one of the reasons I got into this, because I wanted to get into radio broadcasting, but I was kind of held back through a fear of rejection. Also did a bit of nightclub DJing, but I didn't go to the big nightclubs because of fear of rejection. And it was through the NLP and hypnotherapy that helped get me over that. And I always thought myself being quite a shy person when I was at school. And then afterwards, the most confident people would come to me afterwards that I knew at school and sort of said, oh, they were really shy at school. So I think that was everybody. That was everybody feeling a little bit awkward and a little bit shy and have like a bit of self-esteem going on. So I think if the schools could add some self-esteem, some goal setting, some confidence boosting, just a little bit, even just 10 minutes or 5 minutes in the morning, I think would probably, I reckon you could halve bullying just by adding that in.
Yeah.
Precisely. I mean, they do that in Japan. Even workers do have a routine, don't they? Which is fantastic.
Yes.
I wish the Europeans would do the similar thing, but no, I think there's too many stuffy shirts for that. But
no,
yeah, it's
I agree.
A fantastic idea. But were you gonna say something, Ian?
No, I was just listening. I noticed quite a lot in the chat. We got any more questions for Paul?
Yeah, we've got a few. Robert says, hello.
Hello.
And he says he's at that Catwoman. Here's a question from William. There are some people that cannot be hypnotized. I am one of them.
You said that. But...
Well, I think that everybody can be hypnotized. It's just a fear that people have of being hypnotized. And also as well, I think some people just have the belief that it's going to be something else. But, you know, as well, it's important that the hypnotist has rapport with the client. And I think if the hypnotist has explained it well enough, I mean, not everyone can go and have aggression. I'd say 98% of people do get a past life. They're the few that either don't or struggle with it or really try to fight you. But I think as long as you're creating that good rapport, even some people who are very hard to hypnotize, you can get them into a hypnotic state. Because I'm a big fan of Milton Erickson, who was a psychotherapist and a hypnotherapist. And he had a client that came to sort of see him that couldn't sit still. And he tried all sorts of different things, therapies, that just couldn't even sit down in a chair. And Milton Erickson, he's passed away now. He passed away in 1980. But he got the person to go to one chair because he said, you know, well, are you happy to walk about in my office, you know, whilst you're here? And he said, yeah, I can do that. So it was just basically time to walk to a certain chair, then walk to another chair, then walk to the window and back again. Then he started to add in words like, now go to the chair you feel least uncomfortable going to, and then walk away from it. Then he changed it a bit more and said, now go to the chair which you feel comfortable with. As he was doing this, Milton Erickson started to slow down his speech. As he slowed down his speech, the man started going to each of the different chairs more slowly, to eventually sort of said, now just allow yourself to sit down in the chair. So he kind of knew what the client was like, used his model of the world, used what was happening in his reality to help get him into the state, which was a desired state for the client in the end, to go into hypnosis and have that help that he needed. So everybody can be hypnotized.
Which leads me into my next question. Have you treated anybody or done hypnosis on anyone that's had Tourette's? And do they lose the Tourette's while they're under hypnosis?
I don't know if it was Tourette's, because it's not just that people shout names or swear words or whatever it is, or make noises. You get other sorts of Tourette's. And I don't know if it was because he was somebody who was a demonstration during one of my live talks. But during the time, he was somebody who was very twitchy, his neck would be jerking from one side to the other. But during the hypnosis, that actually stopped. So I haven't had somebody who's actually come to me for Tourette's, but through witnessing that, I think that it could most certainly help. So I'm more than happy. I mean, I've seen all sorts of people for different things. So if somebody wanted to loosen their Tourette's and allow them to go through their life without these outbursts, whether it's movement or shouting or whatever it is, then yeah, I'm happy to see them.
I'm sensing an interest now. That's piqued an interest So, yeah, maybe. So if anybody's got Tourette's out there,
Yeah.
give Paul a
You'll have
shout.
you'll have Louis Capaldi phoning you soon then.
We got any more, Nettie?
Eric says, I just keep coming back. I'm convinced I've been over 100 times. We've got Bunga Moose Spirit. Paul can always be trusted to follow you closely under hypnosis. Really care for you before, during, and afterwards. He has many techniques in his toolbox.
Thank you, Cowabunga.
Catherine, mate, if you were to hypnotise me to act as my past life, the things you would learn would put any former research papers to shame. In all reality, you would need several notebooks, recorders, packs of pens, and a good bottle of alcohol.
Well, I never drink. I never drink when somebody comes to me for hypnosis. But apart from that, yeah, why not? Let's go for it.
William says, "Are you a ghost?"
I don't think so. Last time I checked, I wasn't. But yeah.
Kate Moody says, "Can she book in?"
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, please, Kate.
Cowabunga, does it matter whether the past life memory is real versus something that sounds like a familiar movie script?
Well, at the end of the day, if it's for healing, if it helps somebody, that's really good. When somebody signs the forms, I always say that there's a debate. There will always be a debate whether people do reincarnate and it's actually a genuine thing. And I say I make no claim either way. I could go into the long spiel because I really like the work of Dr. Ian Stevenson, and he went around the world investigating children that had spontaneous past lives. So they're the ones that say, things like, when I was big, I used to live by the sea, or I want to go back to my real home, etc. Those sort of things that the children start saying. And when they're beginning to speak, and there's been many documented cases, I'll reduce down all the different types that it could be, but it went to be in purely just fantasy. It went to be in something called cryptomnesia, which is hidden memories. And under hypnosis, people will produce those. And that's why when I said about leading, so I make sure that I guide people rather than lead them. I have heard of a couple of hypnotherapists say on their videos, what you will get here, you haven't read in the book, haven't seen on television, haven't been told at school, is like saying to you, whatever you do, don't think of an elephant right now. You can think of anything else but an elephant. You're going to start thinking about an elephant. So I make sure I don't put those things in. But another possibility Ian Steven came up with, if it wasn't reincarnation, was cellular or genetic memory, and that perhaps the memories come down the bloodline. So there's many different aspects of what it could be. And I actually did an entire 45-minute talk at Parameet dedicated to all the possibilities of what could be going on. But the things that I like that come out in the hypnosis was like yesterday with Kelly saying Hastings, saying a street, not just being a street that exists, but a street that would match up with people that were fairly well off would be living there. I had Steve Mulligan, probably my most well-known one because it's got in the papers. He had a life of being Sidney Sutcliffe. Sidney Sutcliffe was in the First World War and shot down in his plane over Canberra. He was a flight lieutenant, and where he lived, the places he went to, his dad being a stage entertainer, that all could be found out afterwards. So again, it's very compelling that it is a genuine past life, but doesn't rule out the possibility that perhaps somewhere he was told this and consciously forgot it, but under hypnosis was able to say those things that have happened. But why I also find that a very good compelling case, Steve Mulligan, who was Sidney Sutcliffe, when he was at on a family holiday in North Wales, in Llandudno, his mum would say to him, right, we're going to go across to this location. It would be like a well-known location that wouldn't have disappeared over the years. Say like they're in the centre of Llandudno, they couldn't see a sea, going to the pier, and Steve would go, I'll take you there, and would be able to just take them direct to the pier. And he would say, his mum would say to him, how do you know that? also very compelling as well, because after the regression that I did with Steve Mulligan, that's on my channel, but it was also on his Facebook group, the Paradox Club. Steve Mulligan and his girlfriend Sharon, they took a trip to Llandudno to see some of the places that seemed so familiar to him as a child and also came out in the regression. Now, Steve Mulligan correctly named the house and the streets that he would have lived in if he had been Sydney Sutcliffe. When they were driving, the sat-nav told them to go a certain direction, and Steve said to his girlfriend, "We're going to go left here." And Sharon said, "No, you've got to keep going." So he said, "Okay," and they kept going. When they actually did arrive at the house where Sydney grew up, which was the Nook in Llandudno, if they had actually listened to Steve rather than the sat-nav, taking that turning would have took them directly to the house instead of the long way around that the sat-nav took them. So little bits like that make me think there's something really quite compelling going on there.
Yeah,
I mean, even from last night, as you were saying, she said she came from Hastings and lived in a house in Portland Place, and she was describing the houses being brown. Well, they were. They're not now, but they were just rendered houses back then. And the fact she was talking about that her dad went off on voyages and that. Well, people who don't know the town or haven't looked back on the history of the town, where Portland Place is would have been right next to the harbour, because people don't realise the town centre was a harbour. So
wow.
It all ties in, which is amazing.
Brilliant. And she'll be pleased to know about that as well. So after this, and I said, if anybody gives me any information that she doesn't know about, I'll pass it on to her. So I'll pass that on to her, and I know she'll be delighted.
Yeah, because I know back in the early 1900s, an engineer built the beach up and actually blocked the water from coming inland. So now that's where the town centre sits.
Oh, right. Wow. Yeah.
There's actually a shopping centre where the harbour would have been.
Wow. I'll have to get some old photographs and send them to her and see, if she gets a sense of familiarity looking at them, because it's that sort of thing that I like to hear, that makes these regression sessions seem a lot more compelling. I mean, they're compelling to me anyway, but it's when you get something like that, you think, that's something that seriously needs investigating. It's those sorts of things I like to point to when people are very skeptical about it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there'd be many photos of back there, because I've seen a lot of photos of Hastings back in the old days, but I think there are definitely maps that will show the harbour and the river going down to what is now the park.
Yeah, and it was.
If you've got a historical society in Hastings, they'll have plenty.
Brilliant.
We've got a research. Yes, we've got a guy called Steve who's the local historian. He's very good.
That'll be something to set up, I think.
I'll get you his details, Paul.
Thank you. Brilliant.
Any more questions, Nettie?
Catherine, you would want mine to be in person. Several wouldn't be prepared for what you would learn. William, we are all automatically one.
Yeah.
Robert, I know a lot of people that would turn into ducks and chickens.
That's one of the things people. Sorry.
No, it's all right. Go on.
I was just going to say, that's one of the things people say, you won't get me to cluck like a chicken. In fact, I've seen a few stage hypnosis shows. I've never seen somebody who's ever clucked like a chicken, but that always ends up being the thing that people ask me, are you going to get me to do that? And I say, of course I won't at the beginning.
Eric says Robert Fullerton and some dogs and cats in there too. Catherine, I would love to remember all of my original childhood. Robert, yes, stage people. We've got Eric, self-hypnosis.
Yeah.
Robert, I try that all the time. I say, look into my eyes and I get a black eye. William, Paul McKenna was famous once for hypnotizing people.
Yeah, he's still very well known. He had his show, The Hypnotic World of Paul McKenna, and that's where he was getting people to do all sorts of crazy and fun things. But he's kind of left that side of his career behind. I mean, it's how he got known and how he got first spotted. But he's definitely gone down the self-help route now. Still very popular. He does NLP with Richard Bandler, who's one of the people who created NLP in the early days. I mean, it was something that's always around, but looked into the possibility of what made people excellent. And he gets like thousands of people going along to his seminars. So he's still very well known within the field, but has left the entertainment side behind. I think he does do the odd little demonstration of something amusing, but he's more interested in helping people now these days.
Robert says the mother-in-law got that thing and she's a right cow now. Cowabunga spirit. Paul has helped me greatly with complex trauma and other serious issues. He never leads but follows you. He's never had a cluck like a chicken.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Cowabunga.
We got Catherine, bleeding out, Robert. Haha. Eric, the only pressure point I know is to take a person down. I don't think that would help anyone with healing. No,
definitely
not. No.
We've got William. I've been watching Spooky on Star Trek, so watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Patricia Middleton, can hypnosis help you connect to your ancestors?
I've not done that. I've had people that recognize other people from a past life in this life. But yeah, that's something, because something I've been doing more recently because you mentioned Barry's team friend, and Kate Hager, very much known within the fairy realm. Some people have had some very strange experiences regarding something that could be that. So that's something I've done under hypnosis. There's also been people that have had UFO experiences. And, a lot of the times, without leading someone, but guiding someone, more details remembered from what they've experienced. But a lot of people don't actually go through and have an abduction experience, but they remember the craft in more detail, or more things have happened that they've forgotten about, or possibly forgotten about. And again, I pride myself because I don't sort of say, do they take you aboard the UFO? Because if you say things like that, you're implanting that idea. So I just get them to go forward, and that's all I ever get them to do. So doing the ancestors, I think, would be really interesting to go and look into that.
Yeah.
Do you believe that having a really open mind is good practice when you're practicing such hypnotherapy, mediumship, any of the paranormal gifts, shall we say, to be open to other things as well?
I think so, because anybody comes to me with an experience, I mean, like I mentioned, the UFO experiences later, I've never had someone who has seemed like they were making it up, or that they were a bit odd. They always seem very genuine, good people, and they've had an experience of something that they want to explore a little bit more. And as again, like the past lives, if anybody has had an experience with the Fae or experience with UFOs, I never sort of say what you're going to experience is going to be definitely the truth, but we'll see what your subconscious mind comes up with and see if we tap into something. And as long as you're happy with that, we'll go ahead with the session. And I'd rather do hypnosis myself for the UFO phenomena, and know that I wasn't leading someone, than somebody go across to somebody and sort of say things like, well, did they take you aboard? Are they doing experiments on you? All the sorts of things that's another. I'm not saying I think a lot of hypnotists wouldn't do that, but I know that I definitely won't, and that's something that I pride myself on.
Brilliant. Any more? For any more? Nettie?
Catherine, put me fully under, mate. You would not regret.
Good.
Well, you might.
Rex is the funniest mental disorder out there. My mind can't be changed.
Well, the thing is whatever you say regarding saying, and I would never say I can definitely cure this. You know, I've known I've had a lot of success, but you can't say every single person you get through the door will absolutely 100% get the desired outcome. But the subconscious mind is really good. It regulates our temperature, it controls our heart rate, it controls our breathing. You know, to an extent, most of the time it's subconscious. I mean, we could also hold our breaths if we wanted to. But all those things go on subconsciously. But also as well, it's simple and knows one word, which is yes. So if you're thinking, I'm going to remain the same, I'm never going to change, your subconscious mind will just think yes and follow out that instruction that you've given them over and over again, given the subconscious mind over and over again.
Yeah, which is why it's fantastic for phobias. For the physical explanation you've just given with your heart rate and everything. Because if you can control that, then you're halfway there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Straight away. I've had the similar results with Reiki. It's just lowering that anxiety.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Always a good thing.
We've got one more question. We've got a question now. Would you regret a child who's convinced they once lived in Egypt and the parents gave permission?
If the parents gave permission, I mean, Dorothy Eady, very well-known case. She slipped on the stairs and was kind of technically dead for a while. And when she came out of her experience that she had of being clinically dead for a short while, she went to a museum. And when she was in the museum, she saw Egyptian artifacts, and she knew so much about Egypt, even before what the experts knew at that point. So as long as the parent or guardian was with them, and as long as you could tell the child was curious and wanting to go there, you know, I would be okay with that.
Did you hear about that case, that young lad in America that he knew his family lived in Germany and he started speaking German from nowhere? I mean, he was only a youngster, so he hadn't learned it at all. I find things like that fascinating because that's true.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, he can't be anything else. I mean, how can he speak German when he's only a youngster? He's only been in school about 2 or 3 years. And that was junior school. So
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, some of the things the children come out have been incredible. There's a Channel 4 documentary a few years, I think it was early 2000, about the child that lived on an island and could explain everything and how the island looked and that the planes came down. They found absolutely everything apart from the house where he lived. But even still, for me, that's a very compelling case, you know, because of what he did get right, you know. And I always encourage the parents, if their children start speaking in a particular, like they might have lived before, is to write it down. Or we've got mobile phones that can record now, is to record it. Because a lot of parents, because when I did these talks, a lot of parents will come to me and say, oh, my child was younger, they used to say about experience, they said they lived in wherever it could be. But, you know, I can't remember everything he said now because he was quite young and his memories have faded now. And I think as well, a lot of parents, I think more people are more open to it now. I think a lot of parents think, oh, that's very nice. That's our make-believe stories. And then after, I think there might have been something in that. So if you can write it down and keep it somewhere safe or record it and make sure you've got the recording, not just a mobile phone that's going to hit the bin at some point, I think that's really good. And there could be some really fantastic cases because Ian Stevenson had 2,500 cases of reincarnation with the person he also joined the team later on, Jim Tucker, and about 50% of them were very compelling, and the profile met only one deceased person. So Ian Stevenson's work is something really good to look into as well.
Yeah, I like that sort of things. Go on, Nettie.
Oh yeah, Robert said, if someone had done a crime, would you get the truth from that person?
No, hypnosis isn't a truth drug, unfortunately. Otherwise, every single police unit and service would use hypnosis. It is very good at allowing people's hidden memories to come forward. In certain circumstances, in some states in America, it is used, but used with caution. And it would be something like if there was a load of people that witnessed a crime, because you know what it's like. If people witness something, a crime, each person you ask will have a different interpretation what happened. Like they've done mock shown videos of where somebody's had like a robbery, and people have been convinced the person who was acting in it, when they show the video, said he's got a gun. Then they replay the video afterwards and he's got a gun doesn't come into it. So people will have a different aspect of it. So I think if there's enough group of people, they have used it in some states. I know they haven't in the UK, at least I don't think they have, where they hypnotize a lot of people, see if more information and more comes out, and if it all corroborates, which at times it has done, and that's great because people remember the similar sorts of things. But if it's somebody that had a crime, like I had a couple of times, it was only my early days where people have contacted me and said, I think I might have been like abused in the past and I'm going to take it to court. Can you hypnotize me to see if more information comes out? Because you're talking to the subconscious mind, you have to be very careful. And I always say it's not a good thing to do, because there's such a thing as false memory. And sometimes people are so convinced within that they will create that visualization for themselves during a hypnosis to prove a point. So when it's something like that, it's best not to do. But if somebody did commit a crime, there is always your consciousness that is subconscious, that is always there in your consciousness. It's got some sort of awareness, and it will be able to lie under hypnosis and say they didn't commit the crime, even if they did.
Yeah, it can come under mass hysteria, can't it? Under that heading. So yeah, you've got to be careful. Has somebody got a TV running? I can hear
I can hear in the background.
Yeah, not
it's Ava. She's just over there. I told her to turn it down.
Yes, right.
So yeah, it is. It's fascinating. And we've, believe it or not, we've nearly done an hour already.
No, it's gone quickly.
That's gone quick.
Yeah, really. But that's how fascinating it's been, isn't it? So, have we got any more questions before we go?
Just one, Catherine. Have we just done that one? No, if requested by the police, that's my question too. Yeah. Same.
I would only agree to do it if it was something to do with crime, if it was someone in authority, like someone in the police that wanted it, and it wasn't something like an individual, but if it was a group of people, because I think that you're getting into serious territory, if you're if you're just doing one particular person, like as I said earlier, you've got to make sure that what is coming at people isn't false memories.
Yeah, suggestive, isn't it? This is a problem. In conjunction with other methods, with other evidence, then yes.
Yeah.
But you can't lose it on the phone, unfortunately.
Exactly. And when somebody said that was what I was hearing, because you were like the sounds in the background. I don't know if you saw it, but Kate Hare-Garay, who we were talking about earlier, I did a past life regression with her. And at one point you hear a female voice come over the recording. It was just me and her. So I don't know where that came from, but it definitely, to me, is a female voice. It was actually Lorian, another friend in the paranormal. She was watching at the time, and she said, I think I heard like a voice going to go back in here. And I thought, I reckon it was just one of us maybe shifting our chairs or something. But afterwards you hear it, no, that is definitely a voice. So that's on my channel if anyone wants to see that.
Worth having a look at, definitely.
I send it through.
Yeah, definitely have a look at that one.
Right, we've hit the hour.
Yeah. Well,
the hour.
It's such a fascinating subject. We're definitely going to have you back, Paul. Because
Yes, please. Yeah.
you know, we got through so much, but there seems to be so much more out there that could be talked about. So
Absolutely.
Definitely.
We've only scraped the tip of the iceberg, and the very tip of the iceberg as well, to all of what hypnosis and past lives can reveal.
Brilliant. Well, I hope that's quenched a few people's thirst, and you'll come join us again.
Oh, definitely. We'd like one last one. We love this. Love this, everyone. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Carbunga. Much
And
appreciated.
we'll have to say goodbye with that.
thank you, Al.
Bye, everybody.
See you later.
Night,
Bye now.
everybody.